My goodness, there's a ton of them in here. I may not even get through them all today. All right. All right, I don't think I need my microphone, do I? No.
I can't hear you.
What?
I can't hear you.
What?
What are you saying?
What?
What?
All right. What is the Bible's definition of sin? First question, what is the Bible's definition of sin? Well, there are probably several different words. I remember one, so I'll give you that one. The specific word is, I think it's a Greek word called hamartia. And it is a word that was like used in archery. So it was to miss the mark. The idea you were pulling the arrow back and shooting at a target and you missed the mark. And so that's one definition of sin, is to miss God's mark, simply to not hit the target. And what is God's target? The Bible basically says that if you commit one sin, so probably the quickest for me to go here, in James it says that sin yes, indeed, it is good when you truly obey our Lord's royal command found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you pay special attention to the rich, you are committing a sin, for you are guilty of breaking that law. And the person who keeps all the laws except one is as guilty as the person who has broken all of the laws. This is in James 2. For the same God who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not murder. So if you murder someone, you have broken the entire law, even if you have not committed adultery. So the idea that God has a law, and the law initially, is talking about is God's Old Testament written law, what he gave to the Jews. But it's also, in Romans in particular, it talks about the law written on our heart. What's that called, do you think? What's the law written on our heart that everyone has?
Love.
Well, we're supposed to love, but do we? When somebody, basically it says, when you do the things that you know you're supposed to do. In Romans 2, it talks about this. When people who didn't have like a written law, they do the things they're supposed to do. Basically, it's talking about our conscience. That God wrote a law on your heart. Whenever I share the gospel, I tell people, I don't have to tell you you're a sinner. You have a standard of behavior that you know, right? You're supposed to follow do good. Do you always follow your own standard of behavior? The truth is, we don't follow our own standard of behavior. But the Bible talks about that and says, that's your conscience. That's put there by God. And so sin is, going against God's law. God's law isn't just the written law. It's God's law written on our hearts. So even if it's not perfectly written on our hearts, we all know. We have some idea that we're imperfect. Any other questions about that? Well, I guess one more thing I want to say, that all of the law of God is about love. It says the two great commandments are what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then Jesus said that all the laws, like the 10 Commandments, the do not, do this, all the law is actually really about do love God, do love your neighbor, do love others, basically. And so when we don't love well, have you ever perfectly loved someone? Like perfectly love God in your heart? And perfectly love your neighbor, like never had bad thoughts at all, gone a full day? The truth is, I think we're all living there. We all miss the mark. And that's what the Bible says in Romans 3, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So there's nobody that hasn't, that is loved perfectly. Let's put it that way. All right. Any other questions about sin?